I don't know how to sit.
For the tea.
Yeah. There's not too many things in there.
Ooh. You got a rose in yours. Bonus.
Welcome to Tea Time with Barclay. Tea time with Barclay, tea time with Barclay, yeah, tea time with Barclay.
Nice.
Today at Tea Time with Barclay, we are at Mycelium Gallery, and today we are interviewing our spotlight artist for this month is Alana Anderson. She's also the co-owner and operator of Mycelium Gallery. Welcome to
Thank you.
your own gallery.
It's delightful to be here.
So today we picked out some tea. We went to Urban Tea House, which is one of our favorite places to go get some tea.
Yes.
And I had Alana pick out her own tea. And what tea did you pick?
I picked out this delicious rosebud oolong.
It is
Yes.
tasty.
It's very nice.
I
Very
think
floral.
You had it iced this morning. and
I did
was
have
really
it iced
good
this morning.
iced too,
It
but-
was very refreshing.
I like
like-
it hot too.
Like a drinking the beginning of summer. Like, you know,
Yeah.
the rose, when the roses bloom.
It is, yeah,
in May.
floral, and I never thought of putting that with oolong.
No, it gives it a nice balance between the floral and the oolong
Definitely.
flavor.
Thank you, Urban Tea House, for
Yes, thank
supplying
you.
this wonderful tea.
Yes.
Should we clink? Oh. Supposed to drink it after that. Okay. Alana's Spotlight Show is on Saturday, April 20th, here at Mycelium Gallery from 6 to 9. She'll have a lot of cool pieces, a very big collection, paintings, sculpture, some clothes, and some jewelry. So come on out to Mycelium Gallery and enjoy some art from Alana Anderson.
We'll also have Allison
Yes.
Stump doing tarot. And we will have champagne mocktails. Yes, frou-frou mocktails for my
and
show.
we kind of put in a little tea twist. We have these nice little sugar cubes that are that have some. There's some with rose petals,
Strawberries, or mint
strawberries,
julep.
yeah. And you just plop them in with something else, so it's kind of like a tea mocktail type thing. We'll have some snacks, and of course music by Exmaxhina, our house DJ. What else is going to be there?
Sedisies has a lot of new things to play for my show, for very textural, to go along with these textural pieces.
And you guys did a session where Exmaxhina was playing a set or sound painting, as he likes to call it, and you were painting a live painting.
We called it sound painting and painting sound.
Yes.
Yes.
That was really fun to watch, because you guys were flowing together with your creative vibes, and so his music was being affected by what you were painting and vice versa.
Yeah.
And it was a cool time.
It was fun.
Yeah. And
I
if you
love
haven't
doing
seen that, we do have some footage on our social medias and YouTube, so go check that out. Yeah. So I guess we'll start our interview. How do you start out making a piece? Do you have a blank canvas? What do you do first?
Sometimes I have a blank canvas. Sometimes I paint over something else. And sometimes that actually inspires the piece. But I will have to say that I really hate a white canvas. Like I don't really like, I mean, you can probably tell by looking at my pieces that I don't use a lot of white or leave a white. So sometimes I will just paint it black first, and then I will be able to envision what I'm going to make. I don't really like plan things. It just kind of happens. I would say that I always call it like tapping into the flow, or letting the piece become what it wants to be. And my process is very chaotic. So once I have the black on, or I start with the background, I just keep layering and layering and layering. And
color on color on color?
Yes, sometimes color on color, but sometimes just black.
Do you have, I noticed that you do kind of use the same kind of colors. How do you pick a color scheme, or like decide what colors to use?
I think that has a lot to do with just probably my mood, or maybe something I saw that day or the day before that inspired me with those colors. Like, for example, there's the bellflower and the tulips that I did up there. That was the day after we went to the tulip festival, and I looked at a lot of tulips. And of course, orange and yellow are my favorite color combination anyway. So I do tend to use them in a lot of work, I think.
I noticed that in this section you have a lot of oranges and yellows and red, very fiery. Can you talk about, you kind of have a collection within your collection?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you talk about those specific colors?
Yes. So over here on the end is the fire starter piece that has it looks like a plume or a tree, and I always love to hear what other people imagine it to be. I mean, it's very abstract. And most of my stuff is pretty abstract. But I had taken that piece, and I actually had dabbled with using the Midjourney, the AI program. And even though it's like it's definitely a touchy button.
A little bit, yeah.
It is a little controversial among artists. But I did find that once I put this into, I used my own art and put it into the Midjourney program, and would just prompt it with like 1 or 2 words to see what would happen. And when I use this, experimenting, just seeing, because one thing you struggle as an artist is you may have a visualization in your brain, or a vision in your brain of what you want to paint, or maybe, but you're not really sure how to get there. I mean, because I'm a self-taught artist and I haven't gone to art school, so I have to learn those things myself. And a lot of time I look at a lot of pictures, to figure out the form I want to use. So I put those in there, and I think I had just put fire flower or something like that with the Midjourney prompt, and I'll share the picture with David so he can add it to this talk here. But after I started to study the things that were in Midjourney, I realized that it really just broke apart your piece, and it used those pieces and put it back together to formulate the image that it created. It was really interesting to me to like zoom in as tight as as tight as I could to see the little minute details of it all. And you can actually just see your own brush strokes and pieces like that.
Weird. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's really weird. But then I also realized that even when you're studying nature, it's very chaotic. It's not like you just look at a tree. Like, you have all the other stuff around it too, right?
And it might look similar, but it's definitely different.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of the chaos in the Midjourney images as well, and that started to inspire me into the painting of these other pieces. It was basically inspired by my own art, but just through that program, I was able to visualize how to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So
have something to look at and then make it your own.
A reference.
Yeah, a reference. Yeah.
Yes.
And artists do that anyways. Like they go online and look at a bunch of pictures of things. Even just going out in nature and looking at something is reference.
Yes.
If you take your own picture, it's still referencing.
Yeah.
You're just kind of making your own reference.
Absolutely. I mean, use that as a tool, just like you would like a digital, doing digital art. Yeah. So that's how I felt about it. It did help advance my art in the direction that I wanted it to go.
Cool. Yeah, it is a tool. Technology is a tool.
I like tools.
Tools
If you
are
didn't
good.
know,
Oh, yeah.
you didn't know that.
Speaking of tools, you have a little friend on the table here.
Yes.
Can you talk about that
can see
tool? I know you use that tool a lot in your
Yes. So interestingly enough, during COVID, I took some like master level sewing classes with Amber Lane at Contemporary, and this is an air gun that you just like can charge, and this clean out your sewing machine and everything.
Oh, I didn't know that was what it's for.
That's what it was.
Okay.
I mean, it's for dusting anything, but this is
Right,
what
like
I bought it
keyboard,
for.
okay.
Instead of using a can of air, this is more. This is better for the environment,
Yeah,
and
you don't have
you're
to
not
buy
spending a bunch of
another
money.
one.
Yeah, because it's rechargeable. She knows a lot about sewing tools, by the way. So one day I just so happened to be painting in my shop, and this was sitting here, and I wanted it to dry faster. So I thought I'll use this, and I can see what happens with it, right? So I was doing watercolor, and it wasn't quite dry enough. So when I hit it with the air, it did kind of like how you would do blow art with a straw, right? And it made the
water go.
Yeah, it made it go, and then the
Move it,
pattern,
yeah.
the spray pattern
Yeah.
that happened. And when I did that, I was very excited by the look of it and what I could do with it, because I was already doing a lot of abstract painting and then painting images on top of it, kind of like this, where I would draw the plants or flowers or whatever. And so, like I said, I would start with a layer of one color and then blow the different layers of ink using acrylic inks onto it, or watering down paint and blowing it. And then now the thing about it is it's really chaotic, but you can work on the control of the flow. Sometimes it may
Right.
not go the way you want, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Because sometimes correcting or trying to work with that chaotic mistake is what ends up making the art. Yeah, the mistake, or you're like, oh, I ruined it.
And your show is called Harnessing Chaos.
Absolutely.
So it's very,
It is a reflection of my life. I would say. I mean, having a bunch of kids and yeah. So
I could see that. Yes.
yeah, being like somebody that is, you don't have a lot of resources, so you have to use what you have.
Yeah.
To make things.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I think that's how we kind of became friends. Is like you have a big dragon hoard full of different things like beads and buttons and lots of things that you've collected over the years, and we would sit down and wire things together.
Yes.
And we did a lot of wire sculpting, and so I think that's what, we were making like you have some wire rings in your show.
Yeah.
There are some right here.
I've done.
Can you talk about those a little bit?
Absolutely. I think I've always been really crafty, and my mom is very crafty, and my dad is very, he can build a lot of things and stuff. So I was around people who were creative, and but as an adult, I think I was making some crafty things like wine charms or something like that with little beads and stuff. And then I started to work at a flea market, and I was surrounded by all kinds of like scrap wire and buttons and beads and whatever. And it was very boring most of the day because there weren't a lot of people coming through there. So one day I just like fashioned a ring with wire and buttons. And I didn't even like look at how to do it or anything like that. I just fashioned it. And then I learned how to actually do it. And so throughout my adult life too, I have made many different kinds of wire rings, and then I started doing the sculpture. Like when we met, that is more of what I was into, making the sculpture and the lamps. Like I made a couple of lamps.
Sculpture here.
Yeah, but I have had a lot of people in my life give me like lots of scrap wire and scrap materials, and it goes back to what I was saying before. I just used
what you had.
What I had, what was around me, to make the things that I wanted to make.
Yeah, it's hard to just go out and get all, like, the materials are expensive.
They are expensive.
There's a lot of stuff that people don't, like, that people throw away and people don't want anymore, and why not use that? Like,
well, and I feel like when you use it, maybe if you use something, let's say like a tool or a button or anything like that, it already has like some kind of energy from whoever used it before. Imagine that somebody kept putting a button, through a coat or whatever, and then you wire it onto something. There's already that. It's either going to go in a box somewhere, in a trash pile or whatever, and then when you use it, it makes it unique because it's not something you can just pop down to Michael's and buy.
It already has an energy. It already had a purpose.
Yes.
And it's going to have a different purpose later on.
Yes. That's what I like. I like that with clothes too.
It kind of gives it a soul, like.
It already has that energy, and it's pretty. Like buttons are beautiful.
Yes. What inspires you to create?
Let's see. What inspires me to create? It definitely will have to do with mood as well. I think being an expressionist, I think it has a lot to do with emotion and letting emotion pass through me that maybe I haven't dealt with in the past, and letting myself feel that and letting it flow through me. and it
Getting
just
it out.
Yeah, and I think that's why it has to do a lot of my stuff has to do with the color choices that I'm using at that time as well. Like I think when I did that like red and black painting, I was definitely going through this nostalgic moment in time that was very difficult in my life, and I was started listening to the music from that time period of when I was young, in 1994. Young, I say that, I was 24. So, but still, before my children were born and all that. But it was, you can tell that's that
an
feeling.
Intense painting.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I have a lot of energy. And if I allow the energy to move through me, definitely my art is energetic.
Oh, yeah.
And you can feel that energy. So
It looks like there's a lot of, you have a lot of nature in your pieces as well. And that kind of goes with like the chaos and
yeah, I think that, sometimes it's hard to look at something, say like that black and white piece, because that's a lot of like energy and emotion and feeling. But when you do that on a canvas and then you make it into a flower or a plant, it takes that energy and makes it into something that everybody would find beautiful. And that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. Cool. And then you have a lot of texture pieces. Can you talk about how you make your texture? The process of making texture?
Sure. Obviously there's a lot of different types of texture there, but that also goes back to just using things around you. We are completely, it's just trash floating around everywhere, right? Like plastic bags. There's just plastic bags everywhere, right?
Yeah.
How many plastic bags do you have in a bag at home that you save as well, right? So I think one day I just decided to take some plastic bags and start cutting them up into strips and seeing what would happen if I put them on a canvas and painted them.
I remember when you first did that, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool.
I think I took them and I like twisted them a certain way and then cut them into strips. That's definitely how this black painting, the big black painting, that's what it is. But not only that, as I said earlier, there's so many layers on each painting itself. And when you start to layer black, I used 9 different types of black pigments or paints.
I did not
and
know there
ink.
was that many.
Right? You wouldn't know. Yeah, you don't know until you're like, oh, this is
Yeah.
a different color black.
Yeah.
And that's how I did this big black painting. But the cool thing about that painting, I think, is when you put an LED light on it where it changes color, and it's a pretty sexy painting, I would say.
Yeah. And I like it in front of the black wall, and then there's even more texture behind it from the fencing, and yeah, that just looks great. A black painting on a black wall.
Well, being somebody that helped build this gallery,
you knew what you were doing. You're like, this is gonna go great with my art.
Great, very industrial, yes, and then on this painting or this piece here, like I was talking about earlier, was that I get a lot of scrap wire, but I have to strip it all and clean it before I make jewelry or sculpture, and I used the coating, the plastic coating that's on the wire that I stripped off, and I just painted it black and put it on there.
Just use everything.
Everything in the dragon horde.
So what's with the lamps?
Well, Barclay, I really like to set the mood.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you talk
It's
about
important.
my lamps,
It's
then
important.
I love lighting, but I don't like bright light. I like mood lighting.
Lighting is everything for art.
Absolutely, and it's also great for your mood. Like, I mean, if you think about just trying to relax in a room, maybe you have like some nice blue light or something like that to help you relax, or yeah. That also came with the wire. Like I just started to build like some really bizarre wire frames, and then used resin and tissue paper and different things like that to create basically like patchwork looking, so you could still see the light inside.
Like this above us.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of your lamps in this gallery.
Yes, there's these and the cloud lamps, lights, and the
You have this
heart lamp, this beehive.
beehive. You made that one out of sticks.
Yes, I used a lot of scrap stuff.
Yeah. What was
And I
laying
used
around?
the scrap fencing for that double lamp. Oh, yeah. The world needs light, Barclay.
Thanks. You make other things out of wire. You make jewelry. You already said that. Do you have any ideas of where your art is going next?
Being somebody that goes with the flow, I mean, it's kind of hard to know, but building this gallery and building this art collective that we've done in the last year, and I see that we need to find a studio space for all of us to work, and I really want to create like large pieces of art, public art, anything immersive that could go somewhere.
Yeah.
Of course, I want to collaborate with other people on that.
Yeah. And doing that at home is impossible.
It is.
You can't, like, you need a separate studio space.
Yeah.
To make something big.
Yeah.
I'm having that.
You need a big space like this without everything in it.
Yeah. We don't want to ruin anyone else's art. So.
No. So yeah, but personally, I see more light in my light things.
It'll be a
in my art.
mystery, so you'll just have
Yes,
to
I mean,
find out
even-
what else she's gonna create.
Exactly. Well, also, we just threw all these pieces up here today. They're
Oh,
not
yeah.
really
This will
curated
look
for the
different.
show. And I do have many more pieces than just this. And it's kind of crazy because this wall's already pretty full.
So does that make you feel better about
Oh, yeah.
what you have?
Yes.
Cool. You will have some clothing as well at the show.
I will.
So I see a bucket hat with some mushrooms behind me, and then a shirt that kind of looks like this shirt.
Yes. It looks like it's so old.
Yeah, it does. And I thought it was when I first saw it. I was like, where did you find that? And then
That's just what I did.
I found out that you dyed it that way.
Yeah, I dyed it a while back. I actually rust dyed it. And that's a process where you can just use something that's iron and put it in a vinegar bath when it's super hot outside. And it'll make your clothes rusty looking. And then I did hand paint onto it to make it look like it was really old and deteriorating. But now it is kind of old. I mean, it's from a dress from the 80s.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And then made it look Victorian.
Yes, made it look more Victorian.
Science with the rust dyeing and art.
Yes, I feel like a scientist, especially with like using the little inks.
Yeah.
You know, like the little stopper,
little dropper,
the little dropper
yeah.
ink, some like drop of this and a drop of that.
Do you have any advice for anyone who is struggling with creativity or making things?
I do. I'm just looking at you, and I'm gonna say, just do it. Like, quit talking about it, and you can bleep that, you know. But just do it. Like, stop talking about it. I know it's really hard to get started sometimes because maybe you have a million ideas, but really, just do the first one that comes in your head. Like, just do it. And I will say this too, like, I have so much art that I have started because I'm like, I just need to do something, and it will lead me into doing something else that I really want to do. But if I just start something,
Yeah.
it inspires me to be like, oh, okay, and I'll just put it aside, and then I'll be like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this, and I'll do the other thing. But as somebody that has ADHD, and I'm just like sometimes it's like, oh, a million ideas, but I've had to learn that I can have a million ideas, but if I don't even do one of them, I'm never gonna be an artist. I'm never gonna be a business owner. I'm never gonna be whatever it is because I never started it because I was too wrapped up in failing or not being good at it. And I gotta tell you, I am not good at a lot of things. And I wasn't even very good at art when I started, and you know, so, but here we are.
Very inspiring. I know that helps me too. Just started something.
Just
It doesn't
started.
have to look good.
No.
It doesn't have to even be what it is when you started. It could be something completely different. And sometimes I have pieces where I just leave them, and then like years go by, and then I'm like, oh, that's what that piece was for. And then I pick it up and finish it, you know?
I know, it's like you were in the flow state and then you were out. And then 5 years later, all of a sudden it's like, oh, you were supposed to do this with that. Or you're inspired by something new.
Right.
That makes you go, oh, I can do this with this piece because maybe you learned a new skill or you figured out. And I mean, for this show, I did pull out a lot of old pieces, and I did a lot of reworking on stuff or finishing something that was, you know, from like when you were teaching me how to watercolor. So, yes.
Well, I'm excited for your show. You have a lot of cool things, and I probably haven't seen some of them, so I'm excited. I think that's all. No? Okay. Thanks for watching, and
It's
see you
tea
next
time
time
with
on Tea Time with Barclay. Tea Time with Barclay.
Tea time with Barclay. Tea time.